How is it going, you lovely lot? Welcome back to Park to Prem. Today is episode number 32. Last episode was a banger. I hope you watched it. It was the playoffs. Today, it's a transfer special. Let's run the intro and get straight into things. And well, given the rather abrupt end to last video, we did 3 matches. I didn't want to drag it out too long. Today, we're going to kick things off with a little bit of an end-of-season wrap-up. I think this is important, really, just to kind of surmise the season, because I think it's going to influence our decision-making on where do we improve in the transfer window. Now, first things first, it's safe to say the signings that we made in League One really did make a big difference. There's 2 players that stand out to me. George Edmondson actually ended up winning League One Player of the Year, the 30-year-old captain. We signed him on a free transfer. He had not been playing much football in the Championship for Stoke. That said, I do feel like he is good enough to play in the Championship, and while in League One, safe to say he excelled. Of course, another player we were at risk of losing for the year just gone was Aaron Ramsey. He ended up being a really big player for us, had that non-promotion release clause, also crucially had a promotion extension on his contract. He is now contracted for 4 more years, so that's quite good, especially on £5,000 a week. In terms of departures, of course, there was one big one this window, Jack Kingdon. He left in January to go to Wrexham, played 5 games for them in League One, didn't actually get a rating, so they only subbed him on in those games. Have to question, what were Wrexham doing spending £3 million on him? I still don't understand it. It's the kind of transfer where I'm worried someone would think I've added myself as Wrexham manager and signed him. You can see their history here. No, Wrexham are just morons. In terms of how the season finished off, of course, great to win the playoffs. I'd argue that we deserved to get promoted given how good we were in a season full of, well, many bottlers. Look how many teams had double figures for draws this year. The final League One table was very, very close, especially at the top of the table. A fair few teams getting over 70 points and no one getting above 90, which is a little bit odd. Of course, our end of season wasn't so great, but we turned it around at the death, 5-0 against Preston, and then, of course, that playoff final win. On top of that, whilst we did get knocked out the FA Cup in the 5th round, and when you look at the teams we beat, kind of mad we got to the 5th round, we did secure silverware this year. Whether or not you count the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, I'll let you guys be the judge. Rather unsurprising, really, finances across the board on the rise, and our reputation has now risen to 2.5 stars. Gonna hope maybe that'll help me with signing some more players. Here was our best 11 for the year. I'm looking at this team, and to be honest, there's not too many complaints. I'm shocked that Pai gets into the team at left back. Then again, it's easy to forget, this guy started 27 games in all competitions as, well, our second choice left back. Left back was an issue this year, wasn't it? And in terms of league accolades, Player of the Year, Ajaria. A little bit surprised that he picked up Player of the Year, the right back. Don't get me wrong, he was good, but when you compare the season he just had with 11 assists and 4 goals to previous years, it was a worse year by his incredibly high standards. And not entirely surprising, there's lots of interest in him. Everton, Leeds, Porto. I have no intention of letting this guy go. He's contracted for 4 more years. His valuation is above £8 million, though. If someone bid like 15 million, I'd be tempted. Andy White, by the way, set a new record for total league goals at the club. 55 goals to his name. I've demoted him down to the under-21s because, sadly, Burnley have no interest in loaning him back to me. So that is a little bit of a shame. Of course, Burnley have just been relegated from the Premier League, and in Andy White's contract with them, he has a £31 million active relegation release clause. I do wonder if someone might trigger that. And crucially, if they were to trigger that, we have a 50% sell-on any Andy White deal. So if he moves this summer, we get £15.5 million. And whilst we have a decent amount of money in the bank, really, £15.5 million would be financially kind of just game-changing. It'd probably allow us to build a stadium. You can see here the updated overall best 11 for the club. The player with the most appearances now is Ajaria, 141. He did surpass Callum Hume, who of course left to go to Carlisle at the start of this year. We sold him for £325,000. He did not perform in League One. You can see here the updated supporter profile. We're becoming a more family-friendly club. I need to start swearing more in videos. Decent increase on social media followers. 2,000 season ticket holders. I do feel like, based on past Park to Prems, when you move up to the Championship, that is really where you see the attendances start to explode a little bit. And if we look at home games this year with the highest attendances against both Charlton and Leyton Orient, teams fairly local to us, we did have 9,253 fans attend. That is just shy of the total capacity we have here at Brisbane Road. Now, in terms of expectations for next year in the Championship, avoid relegation is the name of the game. I feel like we should be capable of doing that. I don't think it's going to be simple. I feel like typically in Park to Prems, to be honest, League One is a league where often I have 2 years in this division, and I feel like that helps you build up a squad that will be okay in the championship. I'd be lying if I was to say I'm not a little bit worried for next year, especially with our restriction of English-only players. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a simple season. Certainly hope we won't be relegated. I'm sure that won't be a problem, I hope. In terms of the other expectations, the board have a lot of cultures when it comes to how we play our football. The good news is, based on this year, we're ticking all the boxes. Just letting the players know in the end of season meeting that we want to stay up in the championship. They all love that. And you know what? We don't need to do anything else. Lads, go and enjoy your break. Apparently early transfer rumours, Flood in a West Brom shirt. I can tell you now, Carl Flood will not be going anywhere. This man is a player I really want to build around. I have a lot of belief in him. He's improved a lot this year. Our staff's vision in terms of what they think his potential will be has improved quite significantly as well. I remember when he started at the club, they had question marks over that. They're now starting to believe he could be the real deal. Apparently he's a leading championship player. So yeah, I want to make the most of this guy, obviously. I think he was a standout performer for us. Anyway, in terms of immediate plans, I'm going to try and just sort out the squad a little bit, work out who I want to keep, who I don't want to keep. Another thing I've got to consider this year, if I'm not mistaken, is that in the championship, you get 9 subs, I believe. 5 subs can be used in 3 stoppages from 9 players named. So 9 players on the bench could be a little bit interesting. That is definitely going to incentivize me to improve the team as much as possible. And of course, we have the means by which to do that. We have got lots of surplus wage budget, about £40,000. On top of that, we do have an £11 million transfer budget. Given our overall balance, we will not be spending close to that. I can tell you that now. No bids on any of our players yet. I'll join you shortly as we get into pre-season. I'm hoping we can keep hold of the key players. So just as we're playing through the off-season, I thought I'd try my luck and ask for a new stadium early. I don't think this is going to be something we get this year. Longer term, though, I do want to move out of Brisbane Road. It's a stadium we don't own. Capacity obviously limited to 9,300. Not exactly close to hitting that on the regular yet, but sooner rather than later, we're probably going to start to get sellouts. Just a little bit of transfer news to tell you about as well as we approach the end of May. Jesse Deborah, one of a few players who were kind of on the peripheries of the team this year that I'm looking to move on. The 28-year-old was a great player when we signed him back in the National League. Had a solid showing in League 2, but to be honest, in League 1, I struggled to play him. I just don't see a way I'm ever going to be using him in the Championship. And so naturally, when we got a bit of, £170,000, slight no-brainer, really. Now, in terms of a little bit of a team news here, in the under-21s, I have just demoted the players in on loan. Caleb Ansom, good goalkeeper this year, was a bit of a solution to a problem, but ultimately I don't think he is going to be the player we look to spend £6 million on. That is an outrageous valuation by Norwich. He was good. He wasn't that good, I don't think. Elsewhere, I talked about him before, but Andy White I've just stuck down in the under-21s, and also Yeboah, who we brought in. I was quite excited about this guy as a signing in January. Truthfully, I didn't really give him enough chances. He didn't start in the league, 10 appearances on off the bench. Not a bad player by any means, but yeah, not good enough to justify, I think, spending millions of pounds on keeping. I have also here just started to block out a bit of a starting 11 and bench. The 9 players on the bench is going to be very, very fun. And I feel like actually, when I look at the players I've now put on this kind of placeholder bench, I really, really like the look of things. I guess the biggest question is going to be, can I fill these gaps in the starting 11? I feel like we have to get a goalkeeper this year. I feel like another centre-back to go in the middle would be really, really nice. Will Fish was great as an addition to bring into the team this year for £200,000, but compared to Mbete and Edmondson, I do feel like he is a little bit of a step down. He's a little bit more one-dimensional in his play. I feel like he'd be a useful squad player on his day, but I'd still love to get in a really kind of rock-solid man in the middle of the defence. Elsewhere, Flood has been good this year, and obviously I want to keep playing him. I have wondered if I should just be sticking with Alex Matos and JB, kind of in that position alongside him. But truthfully, when I look at Matos, he's not quite as good as I remember him being, and certainly for a League One player, he was solid. My concern is that in the Championship, the thing that really carries him, his standout speed and physicals, probably aren't quite going to be as standout. And as for JB, I just feel like as a go-to defensive midfielder on that right-hand side of the defensive mid, where we are playing with a DM on support, he's just not quite good enough defensively. He's a great player physically, but when you compare him to Flood, the creativity that Carl Flood offers really can't be underestimated. I feel like he has to be the nailed-on option in that part of the pitch. So, yeah, defensive mid, there would be great to get. Obviously, in the wing-back area, Ajaria, I absolutely love. No intention of selling him, although he is unhappy at the moment. He wants a new contract to reflect his ability. If I just discuss a new contract with him, you can see here, he wants £12,000 a week. I can't afford that right now. He's still got 4 years left on his current deal. Over on the left-hand side, of course, AA is a great player when he's fit. He is definitely a player that when I look at him, I do think, oh, stepping up to the championship, is he going to be good enough? But given the fact he's just turned 19 and has some great potential, I do want to kind of keep the faith with him. Obviously, a little bit concerned about the number of injuries he had this year, but if there's a saving grace that makes me kind of look beyond that, it's the fact that we do have Connor Pye as a backup left wing back option, although Connor, little unhappy at the moment. He wanted a contract extension where he'd be an important player. He wanted £7,000 a week, which, as good as this guy is, I don't think he's worth that kind of money. Little bit concerning that he's only got 1 year left on his current contract. Part of me wonders, maybe I need to cash in on him this summer. As much as I love Connor Pye, is he going to be a long-term championship option? Maybe not. If I did look to sell him on, maybe AA drops down to the bench and we look to bring in a new left-back. As centre attacking mid, Aaron Ramsey, when we signed him last year, I thought he's good enough if and when we get to the championship. I maintain that sentiment. Of course, he has got a 4-year contract now thanks to the promotion extension clause that was in his contract. Alongside him, I have got Gelhardt at the moment playing pressing forward, and I have denied about kind of Dane Scarlett and whether or not I could just stick with this front three. Truthfully, I think for both Gelhardt and Scarlett, I could look to replace them both this year. I'd love to get in a proven championship goal scorer. Dane Scarlett a few years ago did get 8 goals in the championship, to be fair, for Oxford. 14 goals in League One, not a bad return. I do just feel like that is an area of the pitch that maybe we could do a little bit better in. And to be honest, having Dane Scarlett as a really talented sub to bring in could be massive. Alternatively, if I decide to go and get 2 strikers, Gelhardt could find himself on the bench. Corey Gerrard then would just end up being a more reserve player, and we'd line up something like this. In terms of the bench, I like the players that we've got here. If we actually just look at the bench and the potential on it, there's some really good players like Burgess, who I want to continue giving opportunities to. Also like Gavin Wallace, who proved himself as a left-back option. I feel like alongside these young players, though, the depth and quality we've got here is fine, especially because it's a lot of players who were first-team regulars last year. I just feel like with us going up to the championship, there's 5 positions here that if we improve, we'll be in good stead. That is going to be the ultimate aim. Goalkeeper, centre-back, strikers, I think the highest priority. The defensive mid, not as urgent, but it would be nice to do. In terms of the players not in the match squad here, there's definitely a few players I might look to cash in on. I mentioned Connor Pye already. Another player in the final year of his contract is Joe Taylor. I actually still really like the look of Joe Taylor, kind of attribute-wise, but in terms of performances, he just wasn't good enough in League One. If I am looking to sign 1, maybe 2 new strikers, he's definitely a player who will just drop off the bottom of the depth chart as a player who is surplus to requirements. I did already try to offer him out. He wasn't that happy about it, and annoyingly, no teams were interested in signing him. So I want to get rid of him. He might not like it as the summer goes on. And there's definitely a few more players here. Max Voltman, Ashley Fletcher, players who were depth players in League 2, being real for a moment, going up now into the Championship. They're not going to be good enough. They kind of fall into this similar bracket to Deborah, who, of course, we have had an offer for. Another player who I'm considering selling, but I'm not sure on yet, is Zach Orr. I do like his versatility as a defensive midfielder and a centre-back. Don't necessarily think he's the worst player in the world, but I kind of look at his valuation and his ability, and I do think to myself, I can't see me using him regularly in the Championship. If that is going to be the case, maybe I should be looking to move him on. Of course, in terms of trying to move players on, realistically, that's not going to be a possibility for a lot of players until the 9th of January. That is when teams will start to make a few more moves with the transfer window open. As for us, I do want to get to the 1st of May and just see if there's any players with 1 month left on their contract it might be worth looking at as free transfers. First sale of a few that I suspect will be happening over the summer. Jesse Deborah, £170,000 to Burton. Burton have signed like 3 or 4 players from me over the years. Big fan of Burton. I'm being asked to follow up on my contract interest in Ajaria. He's on £800 for 4 more years. He wants £12,000 and a minimum release clause to higher division clubs. I just don't need to give him it, do I? Anyway, it's the 31st of May in-game. If I'm not mistaken, that means I can now approach to sign any players who are approaching the end of their contracts in the next month or so. I'm hoping there's going to be some okay players here. I noticed Joe Aribo. You might remember I wanted to sign him, didn't I? And then he went to Stockport. He now wants to jump ship away from Stockport, who... Well, annoyingly, they did actually win League 2 for the year just gone. That's just unfortunate, isn't it? Don't think he's necessarily good enough for our team. I'm looking at these other players. In terms of reputation, there's some pretty high rep players here compared to previous years. I've noticed a lot of these players, though, their wages are very, very high. Drew Wright here is one of the few players who has a wage that I could probably afford. Sadly, he's not very good. With us going up to the championship, I am going to accept that we do need to pay players maybe a little bit more, but the reality is, given the fact that we've got, £50,000 left over in the wage budget once all these deals are concluded, I don't want to really be paying anyone probably more than £7,000 or £8,000 a week. So because of that, I'm just going to manually put in kind of a player wage limit. Players with at most £8,000 a week in salaries, maybe some more reasonable players here that I could pick up. I thought sorting players by reputation might be the play. None of these guys are any good. When I actually sort by ability, maybe a few more players here. Lee Kundle. Is he good? 26 years old. Loves important matches. Consistent. I don't need another centre attacking mid, though. And I'll be honest, compared to Ramsey, I don't think he's anywhere near Ramsey's level, is he? Yeah, no, he's not even close. Oliver Cooper's another player leaving Swansea at the end of the year. Swansea, I thought maybe they'd been relegated or something. No, they finished 11th. They're just letting go of a lot of players. I'd be lying if I was to say I've been super inspired by any of the players showing up here that I've looked at so far. Yeah, I remember looking at a few of these players when we were in League 2 and getting promoted to League 1. They're now all looking for new clubs. I'm not going to make bids for these players. To be honest, looking across just the players that are interested in joining me, I have a sneaking suspicion waiting for us to be confirmed as, well, promoted. Waiting for that little reputation bump we get for getting up into the championship might be necessary. I do wonder, I'm looking up Reading here with a few players available. I wonder if Reading are losing anyone particularly good. They finished 5th and weren't promoted. They've now spent 4 years in a row in League 1. Surely there's a few players here who might want to move. I remember Boyce Clark being a really good goalkeeper and Football Manager. Annoyingly, he's still got a 3-year contract with them. Would he be interested in joining us anyway? No. No, he wouldn't. I think it's safe to say when you look at club reputation and realise that we're so far down here, attracting players might be a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, we are some way off the rest of the championship, with the exception of Portsmouth, who, incidentally, have been relegated from the championship. Notice that Portsmouth here, their hot prospect, 17, he doesn't look bad. I do wonder if, like last year, we signed players like Burgess, who was a really good addition, and also Corey Gerrard. Maybe there's some players playing in the England youth squads that I should have half an eye on. Of course, when you look at these players, often these players are actually on loan at teams in League 1 and League 2, but you never know, there could be some good players here. Dalton Purple, fantastic name. He's actually very cheap at Derby. He's quite good. 18, that valuation. Does he want to join me? He might well want to join me. He's not going to start for me. But for like a few £100,000, he could be very good. I think this is the kind of guy who I try and sign and then I'll wait for the scout report to come in before I confirm or deny the signing. But for £300,000, or £350,000 if we're going to be precise, he's good. Really, really tall, great natural fitness. I'm interested to see what my scouts have to say. He would not be a first-team player, just be a fun luxury signing. Matthew Callow here, defensive midfielder, 18 years old. We have got this guy scouted. Question marks over his potential. Inconsistent. Oh, I like the fact he's got professional personality, but that's kind of where the stuff I like ends. Derby have a goalkeeper here that I've got scouted. Jordan Santagello? Great name. Sounds like a bank, or maybe that's me thinking of Santander. This guy, is he good? He's not bad. He's not exciting, is he? Jeet Padaroof here, centre-back / right-back, plays for Exeter, has work rate issues. 7 work rate for a wing-back scares me. Injury-prone and inconsistent. How much do they want for him? Nearly £1 million. That ain't happening, is it? Hugo Pearce here at Birmingham is not bad, but I'm not paying the kind of money they might want for him. And then beyond those players we looked at, they're all in the championship. What about if we go a step lower? Under 19s, there's players here, but annoyingly, A lot of them on loan from teams further up the footballing pyramid. Rudy Shirtliff here looks really fun, doesn't he? Great acceleration, great pace, 17 determination. On loan from QPR. Only 3 goals in 9 games in League 2 for the year just gone. Part of me wants to sign him. Part of me knows that would be a monumental waste of our money. Although with the potential, it is tempting. I shouldn't do it. Alfie Sands here is absolutely ridiculous. I've now moved up to the under-21s looking at players. He plays for Blackburn. I mean, he would be a great signing, but there's almost no chance that he wants to join me. Nor that I could afford him for that matter. 8 million, bit spenny. Spike Brits here is a very good goalkeeper. He's been on loan at Blackburn for the year just gone. He's got 1 year left on his contract at Brighton. I don't suppose they want to sell him, do they? 160k to 1.6 million. See, that's really affordable. He'd actually be quite a good goalkeeper. Minus the fact he's injury prone and he doesn't want to join me. He's not bad. Model citizen personality as well. I almost want to just make an offer and just confirm with my own eyes that he doesn't want to join me. Brighton, not happy with that offer I've just made. Having looked through the rest of the England youth teams, and I don't know why I'm doing this, to be clear. This is not where I should be starting this summer. There's no one else really to make offers for. Of the players we've looked at, Dalton Purple might be the one good player that we can actually sign. I have just set up some scouting assignments, so hopefully you can find some players. Some of these were actually refining existing searches that I already had going on. Goalkeeper, centre-back, striker. The only thing that's produced results is this with Luca Fletcher. He's actually really good, isn't he? He's really, really good. He was signed from Man City on a free transfer for Preston. Got 11 goals in 28. I like the look of him a lot, but that valuation is a problem. He'd be a great free transfer if we were a year sooner. Sadly, I don't think Preston are going to give him to me for free. Dalton Purple is incredibly interested in discussing terms. Oh, Dalton. Oh, I didn't mean to... My mouse has a double click issue. It just double clicked. Is that an okay contract to offer him? I mean, it has to be. You know what? I hate yearly wage rises. It'll do. Dalton, sign that contract. I really should get a new mouse. The double clicking is annoying. Have noticed here I can get a few more scouts in. Probably a good thing to do. Might also get in a new coach and a set-piece coach I'm actually allowed now. That'd be good to sort. To be fair, our actual coaching at the club is in a really, really good spot. For the most part, I'd like another goalkeeping coach. I think that's probably going to be the priority alongside the set-piece coach. Just realised that for all these recruitment focuses, now that my scouting package is more global, I'm just going to look for in the UK only. I feel like that's a sensible thing to do. If I send my scouts around the globe, they're not going to find any English players in Brazil, but I don't think Football Manager's smart enough to kind of consider that. A whole load of new staff coming into the club. Good to just try and get some general improvements, I think. I mean, to be fair, when you look at the graphs here, for like a League One club, we've excelled at just about everything. You wouldn't know we're excelling at the physio stuff based on the injuries we've had this year. I have got a new head physio coming in. Damien Davies already out of contract anyway. He's been here since the beginning. Only has 16 physiotherapy. I'm blaming this man for all the injuries we had this year. Okay, I've negotiated a bid for Spike Brits with Brighton. Honestly, 900k for this guy feels like an absolute bargain. But I already know for a fact he doesn't want to join me. So this probably is just going to end in heartbreak. Oh, and in some other news, we are apparently... we're in takeover talks. Worth noting that we have a president structure here, so the ownership will never truly change, just the man at the helm will change. Apparently, Stuart Knight, maybe he could be my man in shining armour, is willing to pay £20 million to get a controlling stake. In the least surprising news ever, Spike Brits doesn't want to join us. Apparently, we're not got a stature in the game to match his own ambitions, whatever that means. We're just having a little look at the Media Dream 11 for our own division. I feel like it might be worth just seeing if there's any absolute bargain young players that have just not been on my radar, who aren't on loan as well, would be useful, that I might be able to sign. Of course, Carl Flood, our man, is in the Media Dream 11. We've had a few other players in the team at different points. I feel like I should probably also just do the same here in League 2, just in case there's someone good like Will Marshall, who admittedly is on loan from Bristol City, but someone like this guy would be good. Lewis Kumas here is in the Media Dream 11. He's also, according to the game, got no transfer value because his contract is expiring at Liverpool. Is he good? I mean, he's in the Media Dream 11 for League 2. We're a championship club. What am I doing? Colin George here is contracted to Fylde. He's very, very good. 19 years old. He's a winger. I mean, he's quite good. I'll tell you what, he reminds me of a player in our youth team. I think it's Lewis Meek here. Do they have similar polygons, or am I kidding myself? I feel like you can see the resemblance here, but Colin is definitely better. I mean, based on Lewis's valuation, should I be making an offer here for Colin George? I'm not convinced he's ever going to get near our first team, but he looks quite good. He'd be happy to be a squad player. It would cost us between £150,000 and £475,000. Wage demands are reasonable. I feel like I'd be signing him not to play in the first team, but to just be a player that we sit on and try and get some money out of down the line, like flip him on for some profit. I thought I was going to have to pay more. I've just offered the lower valuation based on what the agent said. They've accepted it. Okay, offer accepted for George. That's good. I'm hoping his wage demands are in line with what I was expecting them to be. And they are. Made sure the mouse didn't double click this time. Okay, contract negotiated here. This is a bit of a punty transfer, but I feel like if I'm going to spend £150,000 on a player, I could do a lot worse than this guy. If I'd have asked to loan him back for the rest of the year, do I loan him back to them? I mean, he's developed okay at them so far. I'm just concerned that playing in a lower reputation team might mean his valuation doesn't climb if I am looking to flip him on for some money. I'm going to reject the loan back. I'm not opposed to loaning him out, but I actually think he could do quite well in a League 2 team. And with respect to Fylde, they were planted firmly mid-table in the National League last year. Just looking at players with contracts expiring in the Premier League, because it's the last month of their contract, their values have all dropped to £0. And also, in terms of world reputation, most of them only have half a star, but I almost want to just look through these players manually one by one, just in case there's anyone good. I've only got as far in the alphabet as Brentford. I'll be honest, I'm not convinced any of these players are going to be quite at the level I was hoping for. Although, this guy, Oriola, is not bad. 20 years old, good determination. Question marks over his potential. Current ability isn't that good. I need to remind myself, I'm in the Championship this year. This man is not good enough. I remember a few years ago, Thomas Galvez used to be absolutely mad in Football Manager. I don't know if he's just not as good as he used to be anymore, or in this save game, he's just not very good. Yeah, either way, not signing him. Yes, I have just gone through all 53 players in this list. The only one who was even remarkably close to me thinking, I'll scout him and see how good he is, was Nico O'Reilly. Of course, he was the player bottom of the list playing for Wolves. I looked at Macy last summer as an option. He's actually now available from Colchester on a free. He wants to be a backup goalkeeper, which kind of shocks me because I think he's good enough to be a starter. He wants £15,000 a week. Matt, do one. At least right now, of the players with contracts expiring that I could probably afford, none of them have interest in joining me. I think the sooner we get to the transfer window being open, the better. I think maybe I'm going to be looking to sell a few players. And if I want to sell them, I need that date to come. I think it's the 9th of June we're waiting for. On top of that, around kind of the 20th is when the season ticks over. With that, we'll get a reputation update. Might help me sign some players. Speaking of signing players, Dalton Purple has agreed to sign for us. Our scouts have looked at him and think he's got okay potential. A little bit nervy that he's got mercenary personality. But you know what? For £350,000 as a punty free signing, it's not a free signing, but it feels free. It feels cheap. I'm going to confirm that one. I feel like that is not the worst bit of business ever. And more good news, in amongst a sea of just staff members signing for us, Colin George is also signing for £150,000. I feel like we've got a few cheap young bargains there that could be good longer term, at least to make a little bit of money off. I feel like both of them could maybe be useful in the first team in the future too. Sad news, everyone. President Will Ahern has left the club. Stuart Knight has arrived with a round table. Nothing is changing with the club. So that's a thing. And in terms of the vision, we still can't sign English players. It's hard-coded into the game. Doesn't matter how many new presidents come in over the years. We'll never be able to sign non-English players. Never thought I'd get an offer for this guy, Teddy Sharman Lowe, £325,000. Get him out of my sights. Yes, I'm losing Anson. Yes, I'm losing Teddy Sharman Lowe. It does mean that Shay Salmon of our youth intake will be the current best goalkeeper at the club until I sign some goalkeepers. But let's be honest, Teddy's just annoyed me. He's played 17 games this year in League One, did not play well. Anyone who thinks I didn't give him a chance hasn't been paying attention. He's just failed as a signing, and I'm okay with that. Okay, the restricted transfer window's opened. It actually turns out the League One transfer window opens on the 15th. Suspect that's when we might start to get bids on our players. Big news if you're an Aston Villa fan. Villa have been paid £0 by us as part of the Carl Flood transfer deal. The player's last international appearance triggered that. He's now a capped Irish player, at 19. Anyone who thought he might do a Declan Rice and declare for England, it isn't happening, I'm afraid to say. Quite why we're paying Villa £0. I assume that just means it was a transactional deal that involved like sticks or twigs or chocolate or something. I'm not sure what we've given them, but it's not money. Teddy leaving the building, £325,000. Might have just lost our backup goalkeeper. Don't care. Get him gone. And now officially the transfer window is open. There was a few players I mentioned wanting to sell before. Probably going to try offering them out again now. I asked Zach Orr what his agent thought we could get for him. His agent said £900,000 was a deal he thought he could get done. As far as I'm aware, he could be worth up to £4 million. That feels very, very low. I certainly wouldn't sell him for that price. Max Voltman, we're going to offer out, and I think we're going to transfer list him as well. Same with Ashley Fletcher. They are two players who, to be honest, even if they could kick up a stink here about me forcing them out of the club, I don't really care if they're unhappy. They're not going to be here any longer. Jesse Deborah, by the way, has left the club now. So has Sharman Lowe. On the flip side, Dalton Purple and Colin George are here. Two early signings to kick off the transfer window. I kind of like them both. Although in the case of Colin George here, we need to teach him how to shoot. 6 finishing for a striker is a problem. But what I will say is with his technicals and his pace, I feel like he can still be a bit of a weapon in, the Football Manager match engine and in our team if indeed we end up using him. As for Dalton Purple, he is going to be in the under-21s, I think, for a year here. He's not the quickest player. I'm going to teach him to run this year. Couple of bids for players. Maybe not a player you'd expect to see an offer from. Jamie Thornton. He is a player in our youth team. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't rate that highly. He has a lot of potential, but he's injury prone. He's inconsistent. He's not really shown that much development. And for a centre-back, well, let's be honest, he just lacks the technicals of a centre-back. Oxford have made a bid here that's not unreasonable. Potentially worth £220,000. I'm going to be a bit cheeky here. I'm going to just ask for £250,000 up front, which they're going to, accept. And I feel like that's just a good deal. We signed Dalton Purple, as a reminder, for £350,000. If I sell Thornton for £100,000 less than that, I feel like it just looks sensible, to be honest. The other player who's had some interest in him is Voltman. There's a few bids here that are actually kind of big. Bolton and Rotherham offering decent money. Carlisle as well. Wickham have locked in £300,000. I'm going to ask for £400,000 from Bolton. They're going to accept that. I'm not sure the other teams are going to match that offer, but I'll issue an ultimatum. I'll tell you what, £400,000 for Voltman, I don't mind if we do. I was just looking at the England youth team, England under-21 squad, and I noticed Jack Wint here, who's contracted to Doncaster. He's actually on loan at Doncaster from Fulham. Great aerial reach, good reflexes, 21 years old, good potential. A little bit concerned about the injury proneness, but as a backup depth goalkeeper, he would be a good option. The only stumbling block might be the price. I'll make an offer and see what they negotiate back here, Fulham. Okay, that's more than what the agent said that they'd want for him. Never mind. Just as I think we might have a goalkeeping solution, we don't. To be fair, I've just spotted here in the England under-19, Shay Salmon has made the bench of the England under-19 squad as a goalkeeper. Could he just be my backup goalkeeper in the Championship? It's probably a terrible idea, but clearly the boy's got potential. Although, I will say, compared to our current backup goalkeeper in Miles Roberts, he's probably not as good. I also feel like Salmon would benefit from just being the #1 goalkeeper in the under-21s for us and our under-18s. Just give him as many matches as possible. Speaking of goalkeepers, if you're wondering if the recruitment focuses are delivering anything, no. Although, we are looking at strikers, apparently. And there are strikers recommended here. Marcus Sheldon plays for Reading. £5 million for this guy. Am I going crazy? I think he's worth it. £5 million for Sheldon. He's ridiculously good. He played a lot of games for Reading and didn't really deliver. Look at the technicals, look at the physicals, look at the potential. £5 million? Does he want to play for me? He's just signed a new contract, so he probably won't be interested, but he's got this minimum release clause of £5 million. If I offer 400k, they're just going to ask for £5 million. He's just signed a new deal, so I don't think he'd want to join me. But if I could get him for like say 4 million, he'd probably be worth it. Am I really about to spend £4 million on a striker? Am I going crazy? I feel like this guy's ridiculous. There are some other options here. I'll be honest, they're not more affordable. McGregor here, Irish player. He's quite good as a loan option, perhaps. Where was he last year? No way. He played 14 games in the Premier League, didn't score a goal. He's quite good, isn't he? Would he be interested in joining us on loan? Potentially. I don't want to pay him £13,000 a week, mind you. Tommy Conway here, contract expiring at Middlesbrough. Scottish international, 25 years old. I mean, he's very, very good. My concern is going to be the wages. Safe to say he would be a significant upgrade on Dane Scarlett, but yeah, the wages I think are going to be an issue here. He wants £12,000 to £16,000 a week. Oh, it's a lot of money, but he's quite good. Admittedly, from a goal scoring point of view, slightly less impressive. He's not really been given much of a chance at Middlesbrough over the last few years to develop or thrive. I kind of want to add him to my shortlist and just keep a very close eye on him. If he goes to free agency, maybe his wage demands go down, then I'd definitely be wanting to sign him. There's a few players as well here who were considered near misses, the best of which is this guy, Miles Leaburn. I can see why he was a miss. He's not bad, he's not great. Oh my word, I can loan Andy White again. I can loan Andy White again, but they want a future fee after games played. I mean, I can't give him that, but I'll sign him on 10,000 at 10% wages. They don't want that. They really want the clause for me to have to buy him back. They're trying to scam me. I'm kind of shocked that they won't do a deal at all with me without having a buy-on. What if I offer them a bit more of a percentage? I'd happily pay Andy White £5,000 a week to keep playing for us. I'm shocked that Burnley are willing to let him go back on loan to us, especially because they're going to be in the same division as us next year. First offer for AA of the summer, Aston Villa, go away. That is a shocking offer. Less than £3 million, they can do one. New championship season draws near. Norwich, Ipswich, Burnley relegated. Wigan, Blackburn, Wanderers promoted. I mean, there's 5 teams there you associate with the Premier League. There is an odd one out, isn't there? Larne, by the way, are trying to sign one of my youth prospects whose contract I'm letting expire. Charlie Seward here. Just not very good, is he? Yeah, there's a reason I'm letting his contract run out. I'm shocked that anyone wants him. Burnley say the future fee is not acceptable. I just don't want to give you a future fee for him. They want 36 million after 20 appearances. Look, Burnley, I'll go to 40%. I'm being very, very reasonable here. I say that. It's actually a bit of a scam deal for them. Future fee after games played, 36 million. Burnley, I can't afford that. What if I put in an optional future fee of 40 million? An optional fee that I will never pay in a million years. Do they like that? If it's an optional fee of 41 million, they're fine with it. You know what, Burnley? You do you. I mean, if we get Andy White for another year and he stays fit, he's good enough to be a striker in the Championship for us, isn't he? By the way, the offer I made for Marcus Sheldon, the Reading youngster, was accepted. He doesn't want to talk to me because he's just signed a new deal. I really think this guy's as good as, well, as good as Andy White, dare I say. I really want to sign him. I mean, if you compare him with Andy White, not as good in the air, admittedly, but the boy is rapid. Remember Jamie Thornton? I accepted an offer of 250k from Oxford. There's a load of teams now interested in him, which makes me think his potential must be good. But I'll be honest, I kind of look at his attribute distribution, the positions he can play. I don't feel like he's ever going to be that good. Swansea have offered me 275k. I'm going to get greedy here. $500,000. Okay, well, sorry to Oxford. Your bid's about to be rejected. I mean, Oxford bid 250k and I thought that was a good deal. $500,000 for this bloke. You know what? Now that we've accepted that offer, let's offer him out for $1 million. There's a load of championships teams interested. Do any of them want to pay me big bucks? Andy White set to stay on loan. Things you'll have to see. An optional future fee of 41 million. Well, we'll never be paying that. I'm going to accept that deal. I am having to pay him £6,000 a week, salary-wise, this year. That's still an absolute bargain. All I'm saying is that's one more of a piece of the puzzle in, and it's a piece of the puzzle we're familiar with. We know he fits in there. I do wonder if with Mandela Egbo, I'd be better off getting a new wing-back kind of backup option who can play left wing-back and right wing-back. In terms of the backups at left-back, of course, we've got Gavin Wallace who can play left-back, AA who can play left back, and Connor Pye who can play left back, who are all pretty adept. At right back, there's obviously Ajaria, George Marsh, who I like, but I never really want to use him at wing back if I can avoid it. And then, of course, the man I just mentioned in Mandela Egbo. I don't feel like Egbo's awful. I say that. No, he is pretty bad, actually. The more you look at his attributes, the more you realise the reason he was on the bench last year wasn't because of his quality. It was because of his versatility, which in the Championship, we don't really need anymore with 9 subs. I do have Tom Reeves in our academy, who's not a bad right-back option, to be honest. At 19 years old, how does he compare with Egbo? I mean, I'll be honest, he's very one-dimensional, and that dimension is speed. It'd be a bit too soon to promote him, I fear. Well, just having a little look here at players that we've got scouted, sorted by potential. There was a player who popped out here who I like the look of. Haig Dolk, I think is how you'd say his name. He plays for Charlton. He is a defensive midfielder by trade. You can see here, obviously, stuck in League One with Charlton. They weren't promoted. Doesn't have the best average rating, but he's a very good defensive midfielder. 19 years old, lots of potential. Very, very well-rounded defensive midfielder. That price, those wages, kind of make him a little bit tempting. I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to ask for more than the 350k. There's also a long list of teams interested, which includes some Premier League clubs, which kind of feeds into the idea that he could be really quite good. I feel like it's probably going to cost me 2 to 3 million to sign him. I mentioned that desire to sign a defensive midfielder. I don't know if he'd necessarily be the nailed-on player to play alongside Carl Flood, but I do really like the look of him. I've offered £1 million. We'll see if they come back and negotiate with me there. Yeah, if I'm not going to sign a super standout defensive midfielder, I feel like signing that guy from Charlton and then having as backups Burgess, who I think is great, JB, who I think is solid, and Alex Matos as well. Maybe that would just be sufficient depth. As well with George Marsh, we've got options at defensive mid. I think realistically, I'm gearing up for a season in the Championship where it's going to be about consolidating, kind of finishing mid-table. I could go out and sign someone who's going to immediately improve the team and make us more competitive, but maybe he doesn't have long-term potential. Or I go with someone like Haig here, sign him, keep him around, play him regularly in the Championship. Hopefully he is good enough to keep us up, and if he just develops a little bit, he could be a top Championship player in a year or two. There is still interest in AA, by the way. I've rejected a few more bids that I've just not even acknowledged, because to be honest, at £2 million from teams like Crystal Palace, there's just no reason to sell him whatsoever. Our bid from Charlton was rejected here. I'm going to bump this up to 2 million. I think I lowballed them a little bit initially anyway. They still want more. He has got a minimum release clause of 4.6 million. I'm not willing to pay that. I'll go up to 2.5 million and see what they say. As a reminder, our overall balance is £7 million. We've got loads of transfer budget. We're not short on money. And if I'm going to obviously have Andy White joining on a free transfer, I say that, he's already here on a free transfer. That's one less position I feel like I'm immediately concerned about. Defensive mid is definitely a priority. Suppose the other priority at this point should probably be the goalkeeping position, where, I mean, I've got players scouted here. Philip Marshall, 25 years old. He's very good, but £15,000 is a problem. Would they let me loan him as a backup for the year? They would. They want me to pay all his wages. Well, that just doesn't work, does it? After all the torment Wickham gave me last year, it'd be quite funny to sign their goalkeeper. Shamal George is a very, very good goalkeeper, but those wages are a little bit scary. Does he have any interest in joining us? He does, but he'd want wages of up to £22,000 a week, which I can't afford. Imagine if we have another year where I just don't find a goalkeeper. I mean, I'm scouting people, I'm looking for people here, hoping that someone's going to be good. I know we looked at Daniel Barden at one point last year. I mean, he's got, is that an active release clause? Yeah, he has a non-promotion release clause of £250,000. Daniel Barden as a backup goalkeeper could be really good. I know he hasn't got great important matches. We looked at almost signing him as a starter last year. Would he be okay being a backup? He would be happy to serve as deputy, but he wants £9,000 to £11,000 a week. I'm going to hope that his agent's massively wrong. You know what? I'm going to make a bid. We'll see what wages he asks for. Harry Evans here is a goalkeeper for Derby County. He's played a handful of games for them the year just gone. I do need a new backup goalkeeper. 23 years old, has 1 cap for Wales. His valuation is very, very low here. 65 to £650,000. I feel like for a backup, I could do a lot worse. What kind of money are they going to want for him? 750k is not cheap. Would they do a little bit less? 650k? I don't feel like he's awful. The other big upside with him is his wages are £1,200 a week. So hopefully he'd just be happy being a backup. Good news, he does want to be a backup. 2.2 to 2.8 thousand pounds a week. It's not cheap for a backup goalkeeper. This is the kind of deal I'd probably delay a little bit and kind of just hunt out a free transfer to find as an alternative. But you know what? I feel like we could do a lot worse than him. As for Barden, as suspected, wages are going to be a problem here. 9 to 11,000 pounds is what he's probably going to ask for. I could have asked him to lower them, but I think the reality is, even with a chat to his agent, he's never going to go as low as 7,000 pounds, is he? Annoying, but just out of our budget. By the way, we've still not officially progressed to the new season. I've totally forgot about that. Maybe I should be doing that before I look for players, but sometimes I feel like I leave dealings too late, so I was just trying to get some done early. I haven't really explored the option of loaning back Caleb Anson. Wait, have they lowered his asking price? He's got a valuation now of 1.5 million. Would I sign Anson for 1.5 million? I guess a lot of it would hinge on how much money a week he wants wage-wise. His agent now says they'll want 8.8 to 13.5 million, but I was just told 1.5 million. I'm going to hope the agent's wrong and Norwich accept. Well, never mind. Can I loan him? He should be tested in a different environment. What? Football Manager has just trolled me there. We all saw it. It said he'd be happy with 1.5 million. I've been trolled. Charlton have come back and negotiated this big for Haig. They've offered the release clause, which is a bit more than I want to pay. If we do, can we do 3.5? I can't remember what I offered them before, so that might be a bit insulting. They're happy with 3.5, but they want to put in a percentage of profit sell on. So I'm going to just exit the negotiations. I'm going to continue once and then see if we can get him for cheaper. Elsewhere, by the way, Thornton leaving for £500,000. Get out of my sights. Does make me wonder with a player like this I've got £500,000 for. Is there other players in my youth team I should just cash in on? I mean, Niall Townsend is reasonably valued here, but I actually really like the look of Niall. I feel like he is probably, of all our youth prospects, the player most likely to break into the first team for the upcoming year. Really, really good, exciting attacking midfielder. You might remember his vision was a massive issue with his game. I think he had 2 vision when he first developed. You can see here, we've had a focus on passing. You can see it behind my head here. It's a +4 for passing there, up to 12, but crucially, his vision's gone up to 6. Given the fact he's still only 18 years old, I think he could develop into a really good little player. On the flip side, I look at someone like Lewis Meek, who's super injury prone. We saw how he's not really developed. And of course, earlier we did compare him with Colin George, where it's safe to say George is just a much better player. I wonder if I should just offer out Lewis Meek and see if I get any bids. It's tricky, right? Because I'm pretty convinced he has some very good potential. My staff have always said that. But the fundamental issue is, I don't think he's ever going to reach it. And if that's the case, maybe cashing in on him is the name of the game. Similar story with Alex Deering here. Really good value in terms of how good he could be, and potential is promising for him. Injury prone, inconsistent, not really developed. Another player who I'm just going to offer out. I don't know if I'm going to get bids for these players, but if we do, there could be a bit of money to be made. I thought I walked away from this offer for Haig Dolk. Did anyone else see me walk away from the offer? Either way, the offer's been made now, and if I pull out, I'm not going to be able to sign him and there's a load of teams interested. I absolutely detest the fact there's a 40% profit of next sale. Maybe we could buy out that clause down the line. I still really like the look of this guy as a defensive midfielder. Potential's promising, current ability's good. No one else has made a bid for him yet, but there's a lot of Premier League teams interested in him. I'm fearful now that if I cancel these negotiations to try and remove that percentage of profit, that I find myself in a situation where I can never buy him back. So with that in mind, I'm going to just try and get a deal done here. He's not going to be able to be a defensive midfielder. We will be established in the Championship, and I will make you a star player for us. What wage demands is he going to have? £6,000 is surprisingly reasonable. I'm going to lower it to £6,000 on the nose. 4-year contract is what he wants, which is good. I'll offer him a contract extension of promotion of 3 years and also a top division wage rise of 50%. Means he'll be on £9,000 if we make it to the Premier League, which I think we can afford. I am going to remove the relegation release clause. Not that I think we're going to get relegated, but I'd just rather not have those release clauses in it. With that change there, he's up the wages. Okay, you know what? You can have your release clause. I think it was £1.6 million he asked for before. Of course, we're signing him for like £4.6 million potentially. So it's an awful deal from that point of view. I'm actually going to lower it to £1 million to try and sweeten the deal. I am concerned that with a queue of Premier League teams in for this guy, the opportunity to sign him might vanish if I just don't go for it now. And I do really like the look of him. I don't want to get too carried away. I just feel like alongside Carl Flood, having two 19-year-old defensive midfielders, they could be the Matos and JB of the Championship for us. Two players that we really build around. Thornton, by the way, the guy we've sold, we actually signed from Liverpool. I totally forgot about that. We signed him on a free transfer, didn't play him for the last 2 years, made £500,000 off him. That's good. League One signing of the year. 4 of the 5 players as Edmondson signing of the year. Not surprised about that. And now we have the leaderboards that I don't think anyone ever cares about in Football Manager. So on this continue, we arrive in the Championship. Expectation for the year, avoid relegation. Look at this Championship table. Look at the teams here. What is our season prediction? 21st. That's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. The board apparently wanted to discuss making the wage available for coaches bigger, even though the coaching team is completely filled out, and we actually have very good coaches for the Championship. This seems pointless. I disagree. We'd be better off investing the money elsewhere. I feel like going from saying, yeah, we can give you a few more £1,000 for the coaches to me saying improve the training facilities is a bit of a stretch, but I'll try. They appreciate their input, but they think their own proposal is a better idea. I don't like Stuart already. Championship squad rules must have at least 8 players trained by a club in England. Have a sneaking suspicion that's not going to be a problem for us. The last few years we have been making a significant loss as the season goes on. In the Championship, you do get a fair bit more money. I don't know if we'll get an inbox item kind of around this, but it should hopefully make turning a profit a little easier. I've had an offer here for Carl Flood by Sheffield United. Flood is valued at 10 to 12 million pounds now. I do not want to sell him for this kind of offer. In fact, I just don't want to sell him full stop. We'll receive £3 million in Championship TV rights over the course of the coming year. That doesn't sound like a lot if you've managed in England, especially in the Premier League. For us, that is not insignificant. Opening games of the year, by the way, Luton at home, then Swansea away. Luton managed by Patrick Vieira. That is definitely a Football Manager kind of thing. And then Swansea on the road. Their media prediction is 9th. They've got a good team. Caden Young is their key man on loan from Villa. I mean, he's very good, but he's not going to be there, is he, come the end of the year? He's about to go back to Villa, so that's good for us. We will continue to develop players in the under-21s. Imagine if I just said no to this by accident. That would be an awkward misclick. Totally forgot I sorted this deal as well. Edmondson signed a new contract halfway through last year that kicked in at the start of this current year. He is now contracted for 4 more years, the 30-year-old. Not sure why I gave him a contract extension after promotion, but if we get promoted to the Premier League, he's here till he's 37. Yeah, when you say that aloud, that is stupid, isn't it? We've got a few promotional wage rises here. This is mostly staff members as opposed to players. And in some more news involving money, Voltman leaving the club for £400,000 to Bolton. Things you love to see. Joe Geldhard wants a new contract. I'm saying that with some trepidation because I'm afraid he's going to ask for a load of money. He's already the joint second highest earner at the club. Let me ask his agent. How much does he want? £14,000 to £18,000 a week. He's got a contract for 4 more years. I've got some bad news for him. We can't afford this offer right now. I don't have to take this further. So if we could come to some sort of agreement, it'd be beneficial. The agreement is you're going to piss off. He didn't like that. I'd really like, before the end of today's episode, to get the Haig and Harry signings done. That would potentially be £4 million spent on players. You can tell we're in the Championship and the money's going to my head. I'm still getting offers for Carl Flood, by the way. Nowhere near the £10 million I've been quoted. I was forecast 10 million. Southampton have offered 9.5. I'd love to know down in the comments. This lets me know that you've got to this point in the video instead of just skipping through it, because we are quite balls deep into the transfer special at this point. How much would you sell Carl Flood for? How much is he worth? I feel like he's kind of invaluable at this point. If I was going to sell him, how much? I'm thinking 20 million. But I am an unreasonable person. Flood's keen to discuss the future. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, what do I say to him? What would it take for you to commit to the club? I need to be played in the Premier League. Would a pay rise tempt you to stay? This isn't about money. I just want to leave. Oh, this is horrible. I want them to get a good bid in. I understand your reasons for wanting to move. I'll let you go Southampton make a reasonable bid. I mean, I'm glad that started at 15 million. I'm going to say 18 million and I'll sell him. 15.75, he's saying. 17 million. 17 and a half. 60. You know what? Let's meet in the middle here. Let's shake on it, spit on it. Not in that order. We'll spit then shake. 17 million. I just asked you to leave a comment. You can now leave me the follow-up comment. Did you write 17 million, yes or no? I mean, 17 million for him would be crazy money, wouldn't it, really? Worst thing is, if someone bids that, I might still reject it. But he can cry then. He's got a contract, he has to honour it. That's not a release clause I've agreed with him. He needs to remember that. Harry Evans set to sign for us. 650k for this guy? I feel like as a backup goalkeeper, we've had a lot worse options over the years. And if I had to use him to start the year, I actually don't think he's the worst keeper in the world either. Maybe I'm getting a bit clouded by the 19 aerial reach and 17 jumping reach, but I like him. And I think crucially as well, the wages make it reasonable. Our scouts think he's got championship potential. That makes me feel like he could be promising. I'm being asked to follow up in my interest for Caleb Anson, which is very cute that they've done that because I'd love to sign Caleb, but literally your club that you're owned by, mate, they won't let me sign you. And it makes me sad as well. The two youth players we offered out, by the way, Deering and Meek, no interest in them. Sheffield United make a bid for Ajaria. It's worth £16 million. I mean, now they're starting to talk my language, but his valuation, his transfer value, has also jumped up to 13 to 17 million. No deal. No deal, Mr. Banker. First game of the season, by the way, happens on the 31st of July. That's like a month away. Today, to end things, I just want to see if we're going to get Dolk or not. Has anyone made a bid besides us? It doesn't look like it. There's so many Premier League teams interested. I'm shocked no one else is coming in. Offers for AA. Now we're talking. Worth 6.5 million. They were only offering me 2 million a week ago. I'm still going to reject them. I've also seen here that there's been an offer made for Flood. Do you reckon Hull have £17 million to spend? The answer is no. That is a £9 million bid. Makes me feel like we might be able to keep hold of him. I tell you what, there's so many different bids coming in here for AA now. It's another not small offer from West Ham. I don't want to let AA go. If I was going to pick between AA and Ajaria, I would sell AA. But I kind of don't want to sell either of them. But then again, this is quite a good bid. I'm going to try and negotiate this. They're never going to go for this, are they? I want 12 million. I want 12 million and I want a loan back for 12 months. I knew they were never going to go for it. I don't know what I was expecting. It is now the first. I've just seen a Saudi team's made a bid for Flood. They've locked in an offer of 14 million. I mean, it's not 17, is it? It's not 17. Get it rejected. Bloody hell, we've had the Saudi Arabians turn up at our club in bloody July in our first season in the Championship. That's a new record speed run for them to show up in a save game. By the way, it is now the 1st of July officially. Players are being released here, there and everywhere. And it does also mean that the start of the season is just over 4 weeks away. I'll tell you what, there's players available for free transfers here that my scouts like Nathan Fraser. He's very good. 20 determination. I mean, he's inconsistent and he hates important matches. But he looks quite good. Does he look good? I can't tell. I think he looks good. I'll tell you what's happened. The 20 determinations caught my eye. The 16 off the balls caught my eye. And then the more I look at things, the more I realise he's not perfect. James Beadle, 23 years old. I mean, he is not a bad little goalkeeper either. Compared to Evans we've just signed, I don't know if he's massively better. I'm looking at all these free transfers. I really shouldn't be hitting continue anymore today, I realise. I really wanted to end today's episode signing Haig, but the reality is if I hit continue anymore or start signing players, we're basically just starting the next episode early. I need to find a nice endpoint. We'll end things with this question. Would you sign Haig? Am I losing my mind signing him for £3.5 million that could rise up to 4.6 with that percentage sell-on? I hate the percentage sell-on. I'll probably try and buy out that clause, in all honesty, from Charlton as soon as I can. I just feel like based on the other teams that are interested in him, based on the gap that we have in our team where I feel like there's a player we need who can play that area, and based on, if I just compare him quickly to Matos, the fact that he is just a significant upgrade at 19... I feel like it's a deal that has to be done. Sometimes I'm accused of not doing enough in transfer specials. I actually feel like we've done a lot of good stuff today. We've got a few new young signings in. We've kind of got the makings of the team for next year. The kind of foundation is in place. There's players coming in. I'm kind of excited for the new season already in the Championship. Fully appreciate that on the season preview screen here, my head covers it. If you're wondering, updated prediction, 21st in the league. We're not competing with the likes of Bournemouth and Burnley, I'm afraid to say. Anyway, tomorrow to end the week, we are going to finish off the transfer window, try and get a few more signings over the line. That's probably an understatement. I want like 5 new players. I need a new starting goalkeeper. I want another striker. I want to keep hold of Cole Flood. And I also want to sign Haig, whose name I feel like I've been saying wrong throughout. Someone will let me know in the comments. I hope. If you have enjoyed today's video, go down below, leave a like. I'll catch you tomorrow to end the week with a bang. And until then, it's me, Jack. I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.